The Legend of Dragoon was one of my favourite PS1 RPGs as a child. All those memories of the incredible visuals, flashy cutscenes and kicking ass with my team of Dragoons have always been at the back of my mind that it didn't take long for them to come rushing back during this playthrough. Like many other titles released around this era, The Legend of Dragoon, which is nearly at the legal drinking age, has a massive cult following and it's easy to see why. However, it's not perfect, so this review is not going to be all nostalgia goggles and rainbows. Alright, let's leap into The Legend of Dragoon. While The Legend of Dragoon may be nearly 20 years old, the visuals still blew me away. Most of the pre-rendered backgrounds are just breathtaking and really helped bring the locations to life. FMV sequences were one of my favourite parts of RPGs of this era, and the sheer amount of them easily rivaled Final Fantasy games of the time. While beautifully done, the SD quality has not aged well. A HD remaster would be amazing for this reason. To top off The Legend of Dragoon's incredible presentation is the soundtrack. While I didn't really remember any of the tunes from all those years ago, it didn't take me long to start humming along to some of the tracks, particularly some of the boss themes. In the end, The Legend of Dragoon was absolute eye candy back then, and 20 years later I can certainly see why. The main character Dart is on his way back home to Celis after going on a 5-year journey to track down a mysterious black monster who killed his parents and destroyed his birth city. After narrowly escaping an attack from a mysterious dragon, he arrives home only to discover it has been destroyed by the Imperial Sandora army, who have also kidnapped his childhood friend Shana. Naturally, he sets out to save her, but he also obtains a Dragoon spirit in the process, which allows him to turn into a Dragoon. Dragoons are basically chosen by fate to rule over dragons and were a huge part of the Dragon campaign 11,000 years ago. From here on, it's a journey around the world looking for both answers and to stop the mysterious Lloyd who is causing loads of shit around the world. While the characters and story aren't as deep as other games of its time, overall I enjoyed it. Following a bunch of kick-ass Dragoons fight an ultimate evil was as enjoyable now as it was all those years ago. But there were a few things that held the narrative back. One being the horrendous translation. Not only are there spelling and grammar issues around every corner, but at times the dialogue seems like it was written by a 10-year-old. Better translation and dialogue really could have helped flesh out the characters and emphasize key moments better. I mean, it's not that bad all the time, but this is still an area for improvement. While the split between story and dungeon crawling is quite good, the linear storytelling leaves a lot to be desired. This is really emphasized on the world map, which is basically a track linking town to dungeon to town. The world map also looks pretty bad compared to the rest of the game. This absolute linear storytelling was a little disappointing when you compare it to many other RPGs on the PS1. The Legend of Dragoon presents some new ideas with its battle system, which also helps keep every fight engaging, and thank God for that because the encounter rate is absolutely off the charts. Taking the world map for instance, you would be lucky if you could travel for 2 seconds without being struck with another battle. This is one of my biggest issues with the game. There are items that you can use to temporarily reduce these encounters, but then that creates another issue, which is that you're limited to holding 32 items. Now, I'm going to repeat that again since it is almost unheard of in a JRPG. You are limited to carrying 32 items. You can carry over 200 heavy pieces of equipment, but only 32 items. Yes, this is annoying as hell, but at the same time, something had to be done to balance the gameplay a little, since holding onto 100 healing potions could break the game. Anyway, what were we talking about? Encounters. One minor detail that I did like about this was the little arrow above Dart's head that indicates how close you are to getting into a random fight. Red means very close, yellow means kinda close, and blue means slightly less close. But close being the operative word here, as even when you're far away from a fight, you're still close to being in a fight. This little arrow is also used during battles to give a rough indication of how close the enemy is to being defeated. I really did like this innovative use of pointers and wish other games did it too. You probably think I'm crazy for spending so long talking about pointers, so let's get on to the core gameplay. Here you have your basic turn-based system. The key unique feature in The Legend of Dragoon is the addition system. When a character attacks, they don't just attack. Oh no, they addition. An addition is basically a set of attacks that requires you to manually hit X at the right time. Failure to do so and your addition combo will stop, meaning less damage will be dealt. I love this. It kind of reminds me of Shadow Hearts, where you always have to be paying attention even during regular attacks. Each character has access to a range of additions to choose from, and there are a few factors to account for when choosing which one to equip to your character. Firstly, there's the raw damage of the addition, with some doing in excess of 400% damage. Then there's the amount of SP they give your character. SP is required to transform into a Dragoon, so you may want to build up your SP gauge faster at the expense of sacrificing a bit of damage. Then there's the addition's difficulty. Some require one simple press of the X button, while others may require many more. The fact that these additions level up with more use made me feel that I was working towards something at all times during regular battles, and this was a good thing. It was also very important since the amount of grinding you have to do for a single level up is just insane, making boss battles the only real way to gain enough EXP for the next level up. This was a tad annoying, as the only single way I felt I could get my characters stronger was repeating additions and buying new equipment from shops. Once your character has built up enough SP, they can transform into a Dragoon. When in this form, their stats are majorly buffed and they can also unleash powerful magic spells. Now it may seem like the Dragoon form is always the way to go, but that's not the case, as Dragoons cannot use items, which means healing is out of the question. Therefore, choosing who to turn into a Dragoon and when is a key factor that always needs to be considered. However, I only ever jumped into Dragoon mode during bosses, as you can't level up your additions when in Dragoon mode, which, like I previously said, was the only major way to get stronger through grinding. For such a popular quality game, I'm surprised that more hasn't ever been done with the series. Its incredible visuals, addition system, and dragon-inspired setting and narrative were the standout features for me. However, the story is held back by some horrendous translation and the fact that it just seems so linear at times. The encounter rate was also an overkill at the best of times, even if they did have that snazzy little pointer that changes colours for you. If you're into RPGs from the PS1 era, playing The Legend of Dragoon should be a no-brainer. While there are a few things holding it back, it's still a very solid RPG and a cult classic for a reason. And if you think you know everything about The Legend of Dragoon, think again. I've just released The Legend of Dragoon Know the Facts, so check it out if you want to have your mind blown. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. Do your fellow Dragoon fan a favour and hit like and sub for loads more RPG content. See you next time.